And I came over to Spain, and seems impossible, but 30 years ago in 1995. Wow.
Time flies, right?
Oh my gosh, you don't know. And I actually came over, little known fact, to play professional football. I tried to I tried to break into soccer here. I had a tryout with.
Hello, 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 everybody, and welcome back to another conversation on the channel with another amazing guest. And I'm sure you recognize him. He has a very recognizable face and very recognizable actions and gestures and all of these things. And today we're going to have a little chat for about 40 minutes. I'm going to get him to introduce himself and answer plenty of questions. And then we'll just have a chit chat with some random questions. So that's enough from me for now. So, Mike, welcome.
Hey, Lewis, thank you so much for having me.
The pleasure is all mine. And yeah, I did say you have a bit of a recognizable face. Of course, many people have seen you, and it's because you're great at showing emotions, right? If you're happy, it's, and if you're sad, it's, and if you're angry, it's,
Exactly. I have some French friends, and they tease me. Wow, you're so excited and emotional. What's going on? The French people are just, they're just
but
calm about everything, and it's just, well, why are you so calm? Why aren't you excited and happy like me? So we see something. We have this communication disconnect, but we get along anyway.
exactly. So you're kind of like polar opposites, and you said you get along, you have a good relationship. In British English, we also say we get on. So you can say to get on with someone or to get along with someone. And this is just to connect, to have a good relationship. But are you always this interactive and expressive? Because when I'm teaching, I can be a little bit like this, but when I'm not teaching, I'm basically a Frenchman.
I definitely have my, I like to call it normal time. When you're in the supermarket, I'm not like, hey, how's it going to the cashier person, like I'm sort of mellow and sedate. But this is sort of my modus operandi. I'm just sort of an upbeat, energetic person in general. And occasionally, like with my French friend, people will get a little annoyed at it. What's there to be happy about? What do you mean? Sometimes when people ask me, how you doing? I say, fantastic. Well, fantastic. Well, what's there to be fantastic about? Well, I don't know. I find that I've trained myself over the years that if I say that I'm great, that actually trains my brain to feel great itself. It's all that affirmation process.
I think I know what you mean, because sometimes if you wake up in the morning and you kind of start in a bad mood, or if something small happens to you that gets on your nerves, then you will sometimes go into the way of thinking that the rest of the day is going to be terrible. But if you kind of tell yourself, no, Lewis, it's okay. I just fell over when I was going to the toilet. It's fine. Now the day could still be marvelous and incredible. So it's all about telling yourself, reinforcing yourself that it's not the end of the world. No matter how dark it is outside, you can still have a really great day.
Exactly. You can bounce back from those small setbacks.
Absolutely. Now, tell everybody a little bit about you. What's your story? Where are you from? Where do you live? What do you do? And so on and so forth.
Okay, well, I'm originally from California in the United States, near San Francisco in the north of the state. And I came over to Spain, and seems impossible, but 30 years ago in 1995. Wow.
Time flies, right?
Oh my gosh, you don't know. And I actually came over, little known fact, to play professional football. I tried to break into soccer here. I had a tryout with Rayo Vallecano, which is a sort of a first, second division team here in Madrid. And unfortunately, things didn't work out. And here's when the crowd admits, oh, sigh.
What a shame, what might have been? You could have been famous.
Exactly. I was so close.
It's this close. You didn't get in by the skin of your teeth. Oh.
Exactly. It was touch and go until the very end, but they dropped me off their roster. So
I'm curious about this. Let's stay on this topic for a little bit before we move on. So you obviously must have been good back in the States. Maybe the average is slightly worse, or at least it was. But like, was it Spanish people or Rayo Vallecano reaching out to you and like inviting you to try out for the team? Or did you apply for them? How did it work?
yes, well, no, I came over to Spain, and you're right. If you take the average footballer from the UK and the average footballer from the States, there is definitely a difference. But I had played at the Division One university level, which is sort of the stepping stone to go into professional sports. In all professional sports in the United States, that's sort of the way it works. And I wasn't good enough to make it in the US league, the MLS, but I thought, hey, maybe I could, make it on a team here in Spain. And if I can't make it with Rayo Vallecano, I can make it with a second division team or a third division team. Rayo was second division team when I had the tryout. And so I just sort of showed up and knocked on their door. And they were a little surprised. I got the typical comment of, oh, this isn't American football. And I said, yes, duh. Yeah, I figured that out. And so they sort of had an attitude of, sure, what the heck? Let's give it a shot. It was sort of preseason, and they had a bunch of things going on. And so I was able to get a tryout, and I was able to, here's a good expression, which is hold my own. Yeah, I was able to hold my own. I didn't feel like I was outclassed, though I was definitely at the lower level of being able to impress anybody. And so, yeah, they very kindly let me know that they wouldn't be needing my services. And I had a couple of other tryouts with other second division teams. And I actually had one team interested in hiring me, giving me a contract. But they weren't, I was here on a tourist visa, and they weren't able to give me a big enough contract to get my visa papers processed, because you have to make a minimum of, I don't know what it was at the time, but the equivalent of about 2,000 euros. And they could offer me about 600. And I said, this is all we could do.
See, that could have been the stepping stone, From there, you could have gone back to Rayo Vallecano, and then from there, perhaps Real Madrid, and then we could have been speaking to a footballing legend.
That was the dream. But, now looking back, I'm glad I had something to motivate me to take that big risk. I basically said, what the hell? I had one contact of some friends here, and they helped me sort of get situated. And I thought, I've got nothing to lose. And I knew that I really loved Spain and the Spanish culture. And my idea was to come, give football a try. And if I couldn't make that happen, I knew I could fall back into teaching English.
Okay, interesting. So you came with a plan B. So it was like first priority, number one priority is to become a professional footballer. It didn't work out, so you could fall back on teaching English. And was it easy to get a job as an English teacher in Madrid at the time?
Fairly easy. Yeah, at the beginning it was slow going at the beginning. You get one student at a time, and then word of mouth, and then you have an interview with an academy. And, so it took, before I had a full-time schedule, it was probably 2 or 3 months.
And did you like it as soon as you started doing it? Because for some people, it's kind of a job that you'll do for a couple of years when you're traveling without ever considering it as a full-time career. Other people, they'll start teaching and feel like, wow, this is amazing. It's so rewarding. I love being in the classroom and seeing how the students are evolving, developing, and progressing. For you, what was the feeling after starting teaching?
I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I think growing up, I always had that mindset of, teaching would be a very appealing, a very interesting career possibility for me. I had worked for years at camps, in summer camps, and there it's all about singing songs and playing games and doing theater, and it's a very dynamic, creative environment. And I found that when I was in the classroom, I was able to apply a lot of those skills to the language learning environment.
So lots of Simon Says,
Exactly.
But
I actually got inspired with Simon Says from a Spanish teacher in the United States. He used
okay.
to finish our classes with a game of Simon Says, and we all just loved it. Yeah, all these 15, 16-year-olds of getting super competitive. And, I'm not going to lose this time. And Senor Garcia was so good. He just had all these tricks, and that was my inspiration.
But Simon didn't say it, No lo ha dicho.
Eh? Exactly.
Awesome. And going back to California a little bit, was it a big kind of culture shock moving from the west coast of the US, California, to Spain? And if so, what were the biggest things that kind of shocked you at the time?
Yeah. Well, something. One of the biggest shocks for me was the smoking culture. In California, it was sort of this healthy, athletic culture of, very sporty, people are very into, eating healthy and going out and exercising. And I got to Spain, and it was all about sitting in a cafe or a discotheque until 6 a.m. in the morning, and just clouds of smoke everywhere. And that was, it was in cafes, it was in metros, it was every place you went that was enclosed. You had to just inhale tons of smoke. And that for me was very difficult to get over. This sort of prejudice that I had against smoke and smokers. And I realized if I wanted to have a social life, okay, I guess I'm going to inhale. You finish the night and your clothes just stink of smoke, and that was just the new reality.
It's not the nicest smell. Like if you're drinking and you're out, a lot of people can become like social smokers where it's like, oh, go on, give us a fag or give us a cig. But then the next day you'll wake up and you'll be smelling your clothes and like, ugh, it's not nice, especially if you're already hungover. You don't want to be smelling that at all.
Exactly. It sort of reminds you of the things you were doing the previous night. Oh, yes. The
The
regret
sins.
starts to come over
Yeah.
you.
And when it comes to socializing in Spain, when you moved over there, did you already know some Spanish at the time when you did? Like, how was your Spanish when you first moved to Spain?
Well, I think I had
Apart from Simon Dice.
exactly. I I had a decent level. I'd studied for 4 years, and I could grammatically I knew the language. Yeah, I knew, how to use the subjunctive and these different things. But what I discovered was the Spanish that you learn in the classroom is not the Spanish they use on the street. And so I found, like, for the first 6 months, it was just discovering survival language. I had to learn about 400 or 500 words and expressions that were used daily that I had not learned. I can remember, for those Spanish speakers out there, I can remember the word hostia. Yeah, I was playing football and I was hearing hostia cada dos por tres. I was hearing it all over the place. I was like, what is this word everybody is talking about? Oh, it's just like English, host. I don't think it's just like English. Honestly, I don't.
It's
So,
a very versatile word as well for any Spanish people or people who know a little bit of Spanish. If people are saying hostia all the time, like there are different variations. So it could mean, like if you use it as a verb, that somebody kind of hits someone else very hard. It could also be like, wow, oh my God. So then depending on the context, at least you were kind of immersed in the culture. If you were with lots of Spaniards at the same time, you'd be picking up on like the tells of when they were using it, if they were happy when they were using it, if they were surprised when they were using it. It's like, hostia.
exactly. And so, that was difficult, and just when you go to, when you're learning a language, of course, you're making mistakes all the time, and you're misunderstanding things. I can remember one moment where my friend was saying, ¿Dónde quedamos? And I had learned the verb quedar for remain. Well, I'm just going to stay right here. Are you going somewhere? No, but where do we quedamos? I'm, I'm, I'm where? Just like, huh? Where? I don't stay what? And then I learned, oh, where are we going to meet? ¿Dónde quedamos? It was just, the structure was just completely different. It wasn't in the future. It was the present. Yeah. Present tense. What do you mean? I was just so confused. And, moments like that were just so common, and you just have to accept it. That's just part of the process.
And I guess over time, then the more people will use these phrases, the more you're like, oh, of course, yeah, now I know. And then you can put it in practice at the same time. So the next time you are wanting to ask your friend, like, where shall we meet? It's like, okay, ¿dónde quedamos? And by the way, if anybody here is from Spain or you speak Spanish, let us know in the comments. Of course, this is an English conversation, but both of us have lived in Spain, so both of us know how to speak Spanish. And if you'd like us to do this conversation in Spanish at some point in the future, also let us know.
That's an option.
And with all of this, you were immersed in the language. When I moved to Spain as well, I was already speaking Spanish. I already had a good level, so it wasn't a big challenge for me because I'd already studied at university. But like, did you take any actual classes in Spain whilst you were kind of adapting to the new life and the new language?
No, officially I didn't. I was a very annoying giddy. Giddy, for those people who don't know it, is not giddy, oh, I'm feeling giddy, which is actually a word in English too. But it's a foreigner, the word for foreigner. And I was really annoying because I was constantly asking people questions about language. Hey, this word hostia, can you spend 5 minutes explaining it to me? Or whatever.
With a
And I
notebook
went
out.
around with my little notebook and I would write down, oh, what's that expression? No, cada dos por tres. Okay, cada dos por, okay. And what does that mean? When would you use it? I was that annoying guy. And so I just have this fascination with languages. And of course, it was a survival skill that I needed to hone. To hone a skill, I needed to hone it as quickly as possible. And so I was very motivated those first 6 months.
So what advice would you give people who move to the US or to the UK? They can kind of get by in the language, but they miss out on things and they get confused when people say different stuff. Like, what tips would you give these people?
Well, I would give them two key tips. One is make mistakes. That is inevitable. Yeah, you cannot avoid making mistakes. And if you're afraid of making mistakes, if you have this fear and you're very aware of every little word you are saying, your learning process is going to go much slower. Just jump in, try new expressions, new words, have fun with the language, try to invent different structures. I can remember times when people would say, yeah, you don't say that in Spanish. And I would say, yeah, you don't say it in English either. I was just inventing something completely weird, you know? And so my first piece of advice would be, don't make mistakes. Just accept it and jump in with 2 feet. And the second piece of advice is, there are going to be bad days. Don't get frustrated if something that you've said correctly 20 times sometimes comes out of your mouth all garbly goop. And you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just said el mano or something like that, where you're like, oh, that was so stupid. It happens to the best of us. Yeah. And it's unavoidable. And there's going to be days where you're like, hey, look at me go. There's no stopping me. Wow, I feel like I'm a native speaker here. And then there's other days where it feels like your mind and your brain and your ears are just not connected, and you feel like a complete fool. And so just accept those 2 things as part of the process and don't give up.
I think it can be fun as well. Like, if you know you're going to make mistakes, you can then remember these mistakes that you make. You can laugh about these mistakes. Maybe it'll be on a night out. Maybe it's having a coffee, and you'll say something that is wrong and what you consider to be stupid. But then the other person might just like, what did you say? That's really funny. And then you're going to remember the correction because you're going to associate it with that moment, and you're going to have a little story to tell. And the next time you meet up with that person who's like, do you remember when I said that? I was silly, wasn't I? Silly me. So this is one advantage of making mistakes. And at the same time, I agree that sometimes I'll feel like I'm speaking really, really well in another language. And you're like, look at me, eh? I don't need to study anymore. This is coming naturally. I'm a boss in this language. And then the next day, you might be a little bit distracted, a little bit tired, and then you'll say something that doesn't make any sense at all. And you're just like, back to the drawing board, I guess. But it's part of the process. So just embrace it, make the most of it, have fun with it. And if you don't practice, you won't improve. So there's no other alternative, really.
Exactly.
Now, many of the viewers, all of the viewers, I suppose, will know you from TikTok and lots of short videos in particular. So how did all of this start out? You were already an English teacher in Spain. When did you decide to start posting educational content and entertainment online?
Well, I had already been posting for several years on YouTube, making these videos that, had zero success. I mean, you get like 6 views on this video, 8 views on that video. I mean, we're talking single digits on these videos. And because I have an English theater company, I would make videos to complement the shows. So imagine, in the show, we're going to be singing, head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And so I would do a video of, hey, I guess we're doing head, shoulders, knees, and toes. And let's do, funny elements. I would do faster and faster. Come on, we got to go faster. And, try to make it fun and unique and a little bit different. So I don't know how many videos I had on YouTube, but, I probably had 60 or 70 videos that I had already posted over a period of 5 years. And I probably had 30 or 40 followers. It was just pathetic
If you put these people in a room, then it seems like quite a lot. Like, I always tell myself this when I have a video that I feel like it bombs and it doesn't do as well as it should. And I think, just imagine all of these people are in front of me. It's a lot of people. So yeah, these 30, 40 people, you never know how valuable they could have been.
That's exactly right. So anyway, that was my presence, and my son said to me, "Hey, you should check out this TikTok thing and post some videos." My son, who was about, let's see here, this was about 5 years ago, so he was about 19, and so he said, the way he drew me in was, he said, there are a lot of cool filters. You can do these funny filters and make your face change and be different characters, because that's what I already do in my theater shows, different characters. So, oh, okay, yeah, this is fun. Let's try it. And so I posted a couple videos, and literally they got 0 views. Not 1, not 2, 0. I have the screenshots to prove they got 0 views.
You have to like sue TikTok or something. Like, it's not possible to not give it a chance at all. So go back in time, get out that screenshot and be like, "Oi, TikTok, what happened here? I want my money back."
Not even one. So I obviously, what did I do? I gave up. Okay, that was a fun little experiment. TikTok does not understand true talent. I'm taking my talent other places. Right? I'm done. But fortunately, my son insisted. We did a road trip to Barcelona together, and he said, you should really post. I think you'd have a lot of fun, and people would get a kick out of your little jokes, because of course, doing theater, we have all these little jokes and gags that come up that are good fun, and so, since we were doing this 6-hour road trip together, he had a lot of time to try to convince me. And I said, okay, I'll give it a try.
Go on then, if you insist.
Here we go again. So I tried a few more videos. Again, they did nothing. And he said, well, Papa, he calls me Papa. He speaks perfect English, but he calls me Papa, the Spanish word. He says, Papa, I'm going to blow you up. And so he gets on his TikTok. He had about 14,000 followers at the time. Pretty impressive. Okay. And he says, hey, everybody, I'm here with my dad. You all know and love him. Go over to his account and blow him up. And he's like, Papa, say something funny. He puts the camera in my face. And I'm like, something funny? What do I'm not prepared for this. So I have said, of course, nothing funny. But the next day I woke up and I had about 30 followers. Oh, well, that's cool. And I posted a video, and look at that. It got some comments and it got some likes. Oh, hey. And there, from being a content creator, that is rewarding. Yeah, that is motivating when you get love. Yeah. And so, so then I started posting a few more videos and started growing. And then I had one video that shot me to stardom, which was a very silly video of, me talking.
Do you remember which one it was?
Yeah. So, you have these videos where you're talking to yourself, you're doing different camera angles. And it was, oh my gosh, Spanish is so simple. And I'm like, really? And then you just take an English word and you put an O on it. Like what? And it's like, like modern, moderno, perfect, perfecto, and then he's like, cool. He's like, cool. Just stupid culo joke, I mean, come on, anything scatological is, comedy gold, obviously. And I woke up the next morning and had 500,000 views. It was like, we love it.
So it went properly viral.
Make more. Yeah, it totally went viral. So that was like, oh, wow. I'm here. It was during COVID, it was back in 2020.
Nothing else to do, so you might as well continue posting.
Exactly. All right, I got more stupid things I could post about and silly jokes I could make. Okay, let's see what happens. So I said as a goal, I was like, okay, let's do 1 month, 3 videos a day for 1 month, just like anything that comes through my head. And by the end of the month, I had over 100,000 followers on TikTok. And I was like, oh, okay, I guess I could continue doing this.
Okay. Perfect. And now you've been doing it for what, 5 years, give or take?
Yeah. Yeah. Almost 4.5. Yeah. 4.5 years.
And is it still as motivating as it was at the beginning when everything was kind of new and exciting and you got this rewarding feeling of like, oh my God, people are seeing me for the first time? Like, how do you kind of manage it nowadays?
Well, now less so. I have to be honest. Now it's less rewarding. It's less exciting. I sort of feel like, okay, I've sort of finished the race. I've rung the bell. I got 11 million on TikTok. It's like, okay, I can sort of check the box. I have done this task. And so now I'm
Completed it.
more. What's that?
You completed it, so to
Yeah,
speak.
exactly. So now it's a bit like I still enjoy it, but now I really post whatever I want. Yeah, if I get an inspiration, I think something is truly going to be valuable, I'll post it. Whereas before, I would post more the things that go viral that I had found to be popular. And so now I feel like I have not the honor, but I have the luxury of, hey, I'm just going to post whatever I feel like. And as a result, my videos recently have not been very popular.
But again, what I was saying earlier, if you still think about the people who are watching the videos and then you put them into a big room, it's like, wow, think about how many people are actually watching the videos. So this is a nice little like reassuring kind of motivating thing to tell yourself. And I try to tell myself this. And if anybody is in the same game, then think about that. Put these views into a room, and I'm sure you cannot fill that. You can fill that room. That's not what I wanted to say. I'm sure that all of these people can't fit in the room, is what I was going to say.
There you go. I like that. I like that. I'm going to change my mentality.
And more recently, I'm not sure if in the last few months, you started a podcast also, which is all related to language learning, the Language Geeks, I believe it's called.
Exactly. Exactly. I
How did this
was,
come about, and what do you kind of focus on in each episode?
yes. Well, the idea was to do something not dissimilar. There's a double negative, not dissimilar, which means similar to what you do, which is talking to teachers about how they organize themselves and how they transmit their language and their passion for teaching, and also um, dynamic ways of learning and teaching is sort of the idea behind the podcast. But we're also finding we wanted to open it up and also talk to professionals who use English in their professional life, that they have had to learn English because it's necessary for what they do. So we're hoping to interview, like imagine you interview a top tier football referee. Well, you're communicating. If you're traveling around Europe, you have to communicate with the footballers in English, so that's like a pure necessity. There's no other language that you can use on the football pitch. You can even read people's lips and see that,
Oh,
the
yeah.
French player and the German player are speaking to each other in English. It's
The,
so
I
that
think
kind of
one
idea.
exception, sorry to interrupt, exception there is like some people who move to Spain and then when they're celebrating a goal or anything like that, you can see like Jude Bellingham nowadays, his Spanish isn't bad for an Englishman, which usually isn't the case. But when they score, you can see he's going like, vamos, which kind of rolls off the tongue in a way that, come on, kind of doesn't quite as much. So this is something that you can like watch out for, that certain people who are living in Spain and of course speaking Spanish, but they're not Spanish, when they celebrate a goal or anything like that, they're like, which is a way of saying like, come on.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And I think that's a fun um what do you say, like a benchmark or a landmark to get to in a language where you actually feel better saying the word or the expression in the other language than in your own language. It takes on a power of its own and just feels good. Yeah, that's fun to get to that point when learning another language.
No, for sure, for sure. And you mentioned that your son speaks perfect English, but he calls you Papa. Um, was it difficult to raise your child or children being bilingual?
Well, it was funny because with my first son, Sammy, and I was traveling a lot when he was a small child, when he was about 3. I was traveling a lot, and my wife and we had the agreement that she speaks great English. And the agreement was, when we're all together, we speak in English. But when she's alone with Sammy, that they were going to speak in Spanish because she felt like she could be more loving and more genuine in her native tongue. But I could distinctly remember a conversation one day where I was talking to Sammy in English, and he said, "Te puedo responder en español? Can I answer in Spanish?" And I was like, whoa, 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 no, we are not going there. No, no, no. And I also felt, when I was with him, I felt this pressure of, oh, I have to be speaking constant English to my son because this is the only time during the day when he is going to be hearing English. So, oh, come over here and look at this. Oh, this is a baseball. Look at this. It goes boing, boing, boing. And I felt this pressure, or I would leave the room and I would hear them start speaking in Spanish behind me. I'm like, no, 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 I'm still here. No, stop, stop, stop that.
The annoying Giri was back. The annoying foreigner. It's like, oh no, English, English, English.
So I cannot take credit. The person who really deserves the credit for my sons being bilingual is my wife, because I asked her, I said, hey, would you be willing to speak to our son in English? Because you're with him much more. I'm traveling so much. And I knew that our job was done when our second child came along, Pablo came along, and Sammy, when he met the new baby, was speaking to him in English. And I thought, our
You
job
can
is
pass
done.
on the baton. It's like,
Exactly.
Sammy, it's on to you now. You are now the teacher.
Exactly. And so they grew up us speaking all the time in our home in English, and them with each other. They almost always speak in English with each other. So they definitely feel a connection to their American roots.
Right. And how often do you go back to the US?
We try to go back every year. We don't always make it, but we try to go. So maybe 3 out of 5 years we go back to the US.
Because I guess if you're going to California as well, it's an extra few hours than if you were going to New York or Florida, to just add that extra little excuse, possibly. It's like, it's another 3 hours flight, so maybe we can leave it until next year.
Yeah, exactly. And also the jet lag, it's a 9 hour difference. So when you get here, there's 2 or 3 days where you're just sort of a walking zombie trying to adjust to the time difference.
I know, for sure. Now, I think everybody's got to know you quite well, so let's finish off with some quick fire questions. So I'm going to ask you some random questions about random things. Anything.
Okay,
Ready?
let's go.
What is your go-to comfort food?
It's got to be oatmeal. Oatmeal is like, I guess you would call it porridge.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's breakfast food. It's hot. It's yummy. It just goes, everything is right with the world when you have a bowl of oatmeal in front of you.
Unexpected, but I mean, you sold it. You sold it to me. Maybe with some honey or some treacle and some fruit. Then, now we're talking.
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh, what was the last film or series you watched?
Oh, golly. Um, I guess I'd have to say South Park.
Interesting.
I didn't watch the whole series, but sometimes I sit down with my younger son and we watch episodes of South Park.
Cool. No, sounds good. And where would you like to go on your next trip, your next holiday? What would be an ideal destination and why?
Um, I am dying to go to Amsterdam. We have I've been to Amsterdam multiple times, and my wife has been once, but our children have never been there. And we have some good friends who live there, and they are always saying, "You have to come visit us. We'll take you out on a boat. It'll be amazing. Like you have to come." And so that is a trip that is always tempting us. Okay, when are we going to book the flight? When can we make plans to make that happen? And it's not far away. It's a less than 2 hour flight. So yeah, we're dying to do that.
I mean, you don't have the same excuse as for the United States. So
Yeah.
get it done.
Same time zone, only 2 hours away. Yeah.
Exactly. And if you hadn't become a professional footballer or teacher, what do you think you would have done?
Oh, wow. Well, I studied ecology in school. And so at university. And so I would love to have been like an environmental consultant, like help companies be more environmentally friendly and also save money, save energy, save money at the same time, and how to be a more efficient, sustainable company. That would have been a really cool career path for me.
Right. And what football team do you support?
That's a dangerous question.
Rayo Vallecano?
I, they have a secret place in my heart, but no,
So they rejected you.
I don't. Yeah, exactly. No, it has to be Real Madrid. It has to be Real Madrid. Yeah, I mean, my wife's entire family is Real Madrid fans. So if I want to survive in Spain, yeah, it's a necessity.
You had no other option, it had to be done. Right. And final question, what would be an ideal Saturday for you? I think Saturday is the best day of the week. Most people do, I think. It's usually between Saturday or Friday or Sunday. But for a perfect Saturday, what would you do from the morning until night?
Wow. Well, something they have here in Spain that I really enjoy are these medieval fairs. They have these fairs that come into town and they set up their tents and their different stands, and they have all sorts of cool entertainment and funky, unexpected items that they sell. And I just love walking around, trying a little bit of food here and there, and bumping into friends, seeing some friends, having a drink, then walking around more. That would be it. Just spending the day walking around at one of these medieval fairs here in the Sierra of Madrid, and then maybe in the afternoon going for like a hike up in the countryside, a bit more secluded, getting some fresh air and some nature time in. Of course, with my wife, like she's my best friend, and we do everything together. So that would be my ideal day.
Perfect. Well, on that note, I think we can call it a day. So thank you, everybody, for listening, of course. I hope you've learned something new about Mike and enjoyed the conversation with lots of advanced vocabulary, phrasal verbs, idioms, and so on. And Mike, thank you so much. And I've learned a lot about you because I knew nothing of your previous footballing past.
Well, there you go. There you go. Next time I have to interview you.
Exactly. And I'll tell you that, when I was 5 years old, I went to Mars, but, I decided that being an astronaut wasn't for me. Also, so thank you, everybody, and we'll see you in the next video. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, everybody, and see you next time.
All right.
Bye.
Take care, Lewis. Thanks a lot,
Ciao,
man.
ciao. See you later.